Hey everyone, today I'm going to be demoing to you my Rasa Chatbot project. It's called GI Cancers Gallery. And as you'll see to the right here, I have a Docker desktop running multiple Docker containers. I have a Rasa action server that runs custom actions for web scraping data from MayoClinic on colon cancer symptoms and risk factors, as well as I have a custom action to send patient symptom data to MySQL. And then I have a Rasa run Docker container that just runs the Rasa server so that clients can connect to it like Slack and Unity. We'll be going through Slack. And then I also have the Rasa SpringBoot server that's running. So this case, it's running specifically SpringBoot, and Rasa server, the chatbot will, when it receives patient data and like collects it through slots, it will then, when the user finishes filling out the form, it'll send that data as a post request to SpringBoot, and then SpringBoot will send that off, store it into MySQL using JDBC. And the way that we're able to interact with the Rasa chatbot server is through ngrok. That allows for us from Slack to connect to Rasa. Similarly, we could do the same thing with Unity, but we'll focus on Slack. So here I have Rasa server running. I have my action server running. For your quick preview, I have gone into my SQL database. I looked at the PCC symptoms table in there. We can see there's already some data populated in there on patient symptoms. We're going to add another record of patient symptom in there as well. So we'll go over to Slack. Here we can see I've already interacted with it before, but we're just going to go off of a new story based on the natural language understanding that Rasa has been trained on. So we'll start with, hi, I am here for colon cancer appointment typically. And what'll happen within a bit, Rasa will react. As we can see now, it's asking, what are your queries on colon cancer? So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask it some basic questions like, what is colon cancer? Rasa has multiple utterances by default that will explain it. Cool, how does colon cancer develop? So we can send off that message and then summarizes it, tell us it develops over 5 stages. It's focusing on the polyps. So most likely it's talking along the lines of Paris classification or Kudo pit. And then we're also looking at like, let's get into some custom actions that Rasa has on the back end. So we'll ask it a question like, what are the symptoms of colon cancer? So Rasa will execute a custom function. As you can see here, the Rasa action server runs, and then it uses the web crawler over at MayoClinic to receive colon cancer symptoms, and it sends it back to us. Similarly, we can do like another question, what are the risk factors of colon cancer? Another custom action will be executed. Rasa will go send off its web scraper to get more information for us. And then, I also have incorporated the ability to collect user information through Rasa rules. So in that case, I have a form that has multiple, so the form is defined in the domain file and it has multiple slots. That's how Rasa stores the information temporarily about the user. So how do you initiate that? I can just put out a request, something like, I want to fill in the colon cancer symptoms form. And so Rasa will come back and start asking me questions. I've initiated the form filling in. So I'll say my ID is 7. And then it's a follow-up question. Rasa asks, what's my name? So in this case, I'm going to say Matthew with 2 W's. And then great, what's the current time? The time is 8:54, estimating seconds there. What are your bowel habit changes? So in this case, there's multiple ways to describe this, but I'm just going to describe it as a dry stool. There's multiple ways. Have you noticed muscle weakness? So this is more like a true, false, or like yes, no question. So I'll just say false, no muscle weakness. Energy fatigue, I'll say true, yes, I have. Have you noticed any rectal bleeding? No, I have not. So false. Have you noticed any poo that has blood? I'll say true in this case. How would you describe your ab discomfort? I'm going to say cramps. Have you felt like your bowel isn't empty? Yeah, sometimes. And then have you experienced unexplained weight loss? Let's say true to that too. So what we can see here is that Rasa has collected the data for us in slots, and then it's conveyed back to us what it has so far. And then it also sent the symptoms data for Matthew to SpringBoot, which then SpringBoot sends it off to MySQL, which we'll go to verify in a moment. But we can see that the send off was successful with the message status of 200. We can also see SpringBoot, had used JDBC to send the insert statement, MySQL statement to MySQL. And now let's check that table again. So if we select on it, we can see now Matthew is a new patient with symptoms in our table. And that's one of the great things about Rasa, as well as Slack. And we can have an interactive conversation with this virtual assistant who can help out nurses, doctors, and so forth. Real quick, let's dive to real quick some of the deliverables. So for my project, I had worked on around 18 Rasa utterances, as well as around 24 patient queries. I had 2 custom actions specifically for web crawlers that made API calls to scrape data from MayoClinic on colon cancer. 11 colon cancer symptoms of data were collected from the patient using slots, and then those were sent off to the MySQL database through Rasa Chatbot server making a post request and a custom action to where my SpringBoot server was running. And then I was able to deploy my Rasa Chatbot on Slack. And so that's what we just went through. And thank you for listening.